Gutierrez, you have an item for us, sir?
I have two. I'll start with the one pertaining to the prison. This is a brief report pertaining to some of the findings that I've been making on the direction given to me by yourself, Mayor, pertaining to what the city can do to help the state reduce the inmate population at CIM. It's a big task. Essentially, we've identified two areas. One is CEQA, which is the law that governs the process by which decisions are made to bring about physical changes on the prisons. They can be construction or other items. The second area is the bundle of administrative regulations, which have now increased dramatically with the new legislation that was adopted last year that reorganized the Department of Corrections, now called the Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. And the idea is to develop a focused plan that can be effective in bringing about a reduction of the inmate population so as to assure the safety of the surrounding community and the safety of the correctional employees that work at the prison. However, the staff and myself are lacking on the intricacies of how the Department of Correction works as to the planning and construction of facilities and as to the movement of troops. For that reason, I undertook an investigation to find someone who might be able to assist us in doing that. I think I've identified an individual. His name is Edward Caden, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about his background. He's been with the Department of Correction for a number of years. He's a retired associate warden, and he retired in 2004. His career started in 1980, and he actually worked in Chino for a while, and he taught at Chaffey College. But his most significant experience is 10 years in facilities and planning, and then he also was the associate warden at the California Medical Facility, so he's familiar with the medical issues pertaining to the inmates. It's a subject of litigation now. In addition to that, he ended his career being the chief deputy warden at Salinas Valley State Prison. I also had an opportunity to speak with him at length the other day about what his background is and whether or not he would be able to help us, and it seems that he has the area of expertise in the area that we need. The area of facilities planning and construction is a big area. He understands that well. I think he can assist us in identifying what are the areas that we need to look to that would be the basis of CEQA challenges for whatever the Department of Corrections would like to do here at CIM. In addition to that, he informed me that there are regulations that deal with the movement of inmates from prison to prison, and that as of the last several years, the Department of Corrections has utilized the ambiguities that exist in the current administrative regulations to move inmates at will throughout the state. Obviously, he's also informed me of a couple of other things. One is already known to us, and that is that the rated inmate population of CIM is exceeded by more than 200% at this point in time. But he also alerted me to something else, and that is some years ago when the Department of Corrections sought to increase the inmate population at Chino as well as other prisons throughout the state, they made a commitment to the legislature whereby those buildings that were being used to house additional temporary inmates were actually pre-wired to become facilities for instruction. And there are a number of those facilities here at Chino, but the Department of Corrections has not gone through the process of converting those buildings to their ultimately intended purpose. And he says no one has ever challenged that. In addition, he has a personal commitment about what is occurring at the prisons. He believes they're unsafe. He believes that inmates are deprived of many opportunities for training, and they're idle. And the idleness breeds a great deal of hostility and violence at the prisons. It has become very unsafe. He's concerned for all the employees as well as the residents. So he shares that personal conviction with us, and he seems, at least at this point in time, to be a good match. And so I would recommend that we retain him. I have a proposed contract if you'd like to add it to the agenda and act on it. And I envision that we would have a team approach, would involve staff, my office, and himself to find those areas that are of greatest opportunity to us to bring about some changes at the prison. Now, this is obviously a very large undertaking. I don't know if we can be successful. If we are, it will be slow and over a long period of time. But I would like to remind the council, the members of the community, that this is not new to the city of Chino. Back in the late 80s, the early 90s, Councilwoman Ulloa was on the council at that time. Will recall that we had a big issue facing the city of Chino, and that was the flight of jets taking off from Ontario Airport, flying low over the city of Chino and creating a great deal of noise. Well, we undertook that challenge. We worked on it for years, and we eventually ended up with an agreement with the LA Department of Airports, which caused them to change the flight patterns. And the result was not only good for the city of Chino, it was good for the surrounding community, because Ontario International Airport was allowed to be expanded by 100%, a twofold increase in capacity, and yet the noise level was reduced because the flight patterns were how can I say it? The new flight, I shouldn't say new flight patterns were utilized, but approved flight patterns that had not been used before were implemented. They're safe, but they were implemented, and as a result of doing that, the noise was reduced. That took a number of years. It took a long period of time, and we also retained an expert by the name of Jack Freitag who helped us with that. The more recent big effort was the one suggested by Mayor Yates pertaining to the groundwater issues, the availability of water, the quality of water in the groundwater basin. That too has taken several years, and that too has produced great results, not only for the city of Chino, but for the surrounding communities, Chino Hills, Harupa, Ontario. We've increased the availability of water. We've improved the water quality. We have even greater capacity for water due to the desalter facility, and we've also addressed the area of subsidence so that the subsidence area in the southern part of Chino has now been stabilized and is continuing. So these are big projects that we've undertaken in the past by a joint approach, a long-term approach, and hopefully a focused approach. We've been successful, and so we might enjoy that success at this time, but we're again embarking on a long and difficult mission, and hopefully we'll be successful. So with that, I would recommend to you that you retain Edward Caden as our consultant on this issue. If you choose to do so, we need to take two actions. That is, one, to place it on the agenda since it's not on the agenda, and the other one is to act on the contract if you so choose.